And we're back. We had a little bit of a hiatus last week, kind of, sort of. Our recording schedule got all screwed up, and then just kind of got everything pushed back. Super late. Could have put out what we did manage to record, which probably actually would have been a decent idea. We could have just not covered our predictions for the showboats, which would have been just wrong anyway. So maybe it's a good thing that we didn't get to that point. So we didn't have, two wrong predictions in a row because wow. Yeah, we got a little bit of ranting to do. We did last week. You didn't get to hear it, but you are going to hear it this week because we are finally actually recording on time. And yeah, by the way, welcome back to Panther Shadow. I'm Jake. This is Jack, and we both are unhappy with what we've seen transpire the last couple weeks.
Yeah. Hello everyone and welcome to the official Panther Shadow therapy session. We do not have a licensed professional with us, but for those who are listening, thank you.
Oh, dude. Yeah, I have words. I don't know if they are going to come out in, any sensible manner, but I have words. But before we get into those words, we don't really have a whole lot to talk about. Last week, not coming out, having that episode come out was probably not the worst thing because not a whole lot really transpired. Same thing this week. Didn't really get anything from the USFL. We did get some pretty good viewership numbers, though. Quite the rebound from week three's. A little bit of a disappointment.
Yeah. But I think we actually predicted this a few weeks ago, or you predicted it, that week 4 was going to be one of those rebound weeks. With no XFL this week, plus a large event lead-in like the Kentucky Derby. It was just a huge smash. 2.07 million viewers for the Panthers versus the Showboats. A tragedy that it had to be that game, but alas. Actually, more viewers on that game than the Sunday afternoon game for MLB the day after. Which, mind you, that Sunday MLB game was the highest Sunday MLB game since before the pandemic. So that is impressive.
Yeah, no, and just imagine how much better that game or the number could actually be if the game was also better and more competitive and less of just eye gouging frustration from start to finish. But 2 million, I will take it. That is, I believe, the highest number that the Panthers have gotten since, of course, returning last year. So great numbers there. Stallions and Maulers, I mean, compared to the 2 million, not as impressive at 545,000. But when you realize that it was the most watched USFL game on cable since week 1 of last year, that's a hell of a number.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was a great game. Definitely, probably one of my favorite games of this year so far, except for our 2 wins, but certainly my favorite game over the last couple weeks, that game. So glad to see that we had, 545,000 watching. Really good numbers, especially for USFL on cable. And then I don't have the numbers here for the other 2, but I know the Generals and Breakers were actually really good. I think they had over 800,000 on about 850,000 on NBC. So really strong numbers. Like you mentioned, no XFL this week. It's their bye week or their week in between the championship game. And then, of course, the Kentucky Derby lead-in and then the NASCAR lead-in on Sunday. So really good numbers, really promising. Love seeing that the potential of these lead-ins actually is going to have, and we're actually going to see some real results. And hopefully they continue to see this, or they continue to do this going forward as well. And I don't see why Fox and NBC wouldn't, but all the more incentive now with these numbers.
Yeah, and I mean, especially for the Stallions Maulers game, they also got the lead with the NASCAR race, and that was a race that had to be one final lap, last lap movement, bit of fisticuffs after the race, so people were staying right till the last second. And then of course, stayed tuned in for the Stallions and Maulers. Yeah, just on the whole, I think this is really good. Like if you're Fox and NBC, you're more giddy than like an 8-year-old who got a Lego set, you know? Uh this is just perfect to see. And especially the numbers from NBC this year have always impressed me, considering that like NBC, despite this not really being their thing, and them generally putting a little bit less effort into marketing it, I see, they still get better numbers than Fox pretty consistently. And that's like really interesting to me.
And they
The
were
fact,
doing that last year too, so it's definitely a theme, which is great. I mean, all the more reason for them to be incentivized to continue and renew the broadcast deal after next year and be that broadcast partner along with Fox, which of course just makes sure that it's not just a single network and network of channels with Fox and FS1 and that you actually have NBC, and they're of course, like I said, they're going to be incentivized with these numbers. So I mean, who knows? Maybe we'll see other networks taking the leap in with the USFL next year, especially if NBC's numbers start to impress others.
yeah, because I mean, spring ball is proving more and more over time to be a solid and stable TV investment. For how relatively little that these networks are putting into these programs, they get a lot in return. Um,
Yeah, absolutely. It's a no-brainer for the networks. Obviously, for Fox and running the league, football running the league itself is expensive as hell. But yeah, for broadcast deals, I I don't know why you wouldn't want to have a spring football. Like you said, the drive, the want that people just want to watch the football, and
yeah,
we've seen that since the AAF and XFL 2020 and USFL last year, USFL this year, and XFL this year. So it's like it's a no brainer to me.
yeah, you're always gonna get solid numbers.
And speaking of
And speak,
numbers, yes,
hey, we both got
the
yeah, we both got the right idea.
Vegas odds. So I know we had a little spiel last week that, of course, didn't come out, but really kind of surprising last week. These numbers seem to make a little more sense this week. Nobody has the same odds this week, which is interesting. Breakers, of course, shoot all the way up to the top. They are now the favorite, though not by much. They're plus 250 with the Stallions right behind them at 280. Then a gap, not a sizable gap, but then there's the Generals at 400. And then we're still hanging on at plus 475, which we were last week. Then there's a smaller gap at plus 800 for the Gamblers. I would think that they're gonna, well, I guess it depends on how they do against the Stallions this week, but they definitely have the potential to leapfrog us there. I don't know why bettors wouldn't want to trust in Gamblers a little bit more. And then surprisingly, Maulers and Showboats way, 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 way down at plus 17 and then plus 1800. So nobody has any faith in them. I don't blame them on the Showboats, regardless of what they did to us last week. But the Maulers, I'm a little surprised that that people aren't gaining, favor.
Yeah, like after they handled the Stars and took the Stallions pretty much to their limit. Like the Maulers are a decent little team. They're a decent little ball club. Sure, they're 1-3, but they're the definition of better than their as things currently stand. It took them a few weeks to get their wheels underneath them, and it also didn't help that they had to play what have turned out to be probably the two best teams in the USFL this year. But they got probably the hardest part of their schedule out of the way. And honestly, if I was a Maulers fan, kind of seeing how the league's shaken out so far, 1-3 is a impressive record.
Yeah,
One and
absolutely.
three is 1-3 is I think what most would have expected to get.
Yeah, I mean, and when you look at it, kind of spoil a little bit, our top 3, that's who they played in the Breakers, Generals, and Stallions. Those are their 3 losses. So not even the top 2 best teams, the top 3 teams they lost to, according to us in our power rankings. So like, yeah, which is kind of a good lead in to kind of prep for our discussion here in a few with this Maulers game. Uh, I'm hoping it's more of last year, but I don't know. I think Muller's got something going. We'll see if they get that realized, if they can start to realize that this week. Hopefully not, but there's definitely the potential.
Yeah. Let's just hope they don't realize it this week.
I'm hoping, because if it's anything like the last 2 weeks, we are in for a long, long day on Saturday.
Yeah. But we can at least talk about what happened this past week.
Yeah, let's rip the Band-Aid off. All right,
Yep.
so here we go. We all know the Showboats came and yeah, they did their thing. They came in, they embarrassed us. I mean, granted, the game was relatively close for most of the game, and they finally, took over at the end. But still, as far as everything that we were watching, it was disgusting. And of course, the game ended to a tune of 29-10. Our first 3-score loss in since week 8 of last year. So not great.
Since
Not great.
the funny game.
Yeah. So not fantastic. Not the outcome that I was hoping for. Attendance wasn't great either. I think it was probably around 5-ish thousand. I mean, people think that there were more. I felt that there were more, but from what I heard, it sounds like it was something around that. So definitely not week 3's attendance numbers. I
Yeah.
do expect to see those to rebound the next couple of weeks, but so I mean, understandable. 7:30 kickoff. I wasn't super thrilled about even going to that game, so it took a
Yeah.
minute to actually drag me over there. And
Yeah.
then I had good trepidation. My trepidation was for a good reason, because that performance was disgusting.
Oh
If
yeah.
you look at the stat line, 10 for 15 for Josh Love, 9 for 12 for Carson Strong. Not terrible percentage. They've definitely, after week 3's awful incompletion, their completion percentage was just disgusting. They definitely rebounded this week, but they each tossed an interception, and Josh Love got single touchdown. So not inspiring numbers by any means. Run game was all right. I mean, Corbin and Scott did what they could. I mean, when you don't
Yeah.
have an O line doing anything and your pass game isn't super effective, they can kind of set up to stop the run. And I mean, teams already expect that from us anyway. So it doesn't surprise me that,
Yeah.
we didn't have a
The
fantastic running game, but we still got over 100 yards rushing. So it wasn't like
yeah.
it was completely inept.
Yeah, and I mean, like, in general, also, like, we still weren't calling the sort of plays that Scott and Corbin each like to do, right? Like, Scott, we kind of knew what to do with him. He likes pounding it, putting it up the middle. He's a very, like, power back sort of guy. Meanwhile, Corbin, Corbin likes to do off tackle. He's, very speedy in terms of how he likes to run the football. And yet we still send Corbin up the middle. I understand that off tackle stuff requires a good old line, and that's not what we have. But man, You got to help out the guy with calling the plays that work for him.
Well, and even when they were throwing him, to the outside behind the line of scrimmage, boats were getting right to him and tackling him, and he could not get away. And I mean, when you don't have a threat, when you don't need to send pressure, you know, y- you can do better coverage. And yeah, as a result, we didn't get jack for production. Though, granted, we were actually out producing them on the ground in the yards for quite a while, and it was, you know 10-0 at that point, and I was looking at we were still had more yards than they did. So like we were, moving the ball decent-ish, at least no worse than they were, but got nothing to show for it. And yeah, that was the most frustrating part. Is like just for the second week in a row, the failure to get any points. And it doesn't help either when your defense isn't doing a whole lot for the second straight week. Basically no production. We had 2 tackles for loss and a single sack, which, better than nothing, but no interceptions, no forced fumbles, so 0 turnovers, which was the first time all season that we didn't get a single turnover in a game, which
And that
certainly
definitely
didn't
does.
help.
And that doesn't help either when the offense apparently started up a bakery over this past week and was making turnovers left, right, and center.
Granted, one of those turnovers was on special teams, so,
Yeah,
with
but
Walker having his second fumble on special teams of the year. Granted, this one wasn't a muffed punt, but very very untimely fumble there. But yeah, 2 interceptions, not ideal.
and I think they were both in the red zone at that.
The Josh Love one was, and then the Carson Strong one was in the end zone.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean,
to
still
to
though.
pretty much end the first half. So
Yeah,
not brilliant. But
against
yeah,
the team, mind you, that had let up touchdowns on all but one red zone trip prior.
yeah. And then of course we don't.
Yeah,
For the
I,
second week
I
in a row, and we're just anemic and not getting anything, and it's just still so confused. I'm still so annoyed. But yeah, no. So yeah, -4 on turnover margin, which we've never lost. We hadn't lost the turnover battle all year, even in the ugly loss last week or 2 weeks ago against New Jersey. We still were even on turnovers, one each, one apiece. But this week did not score a takeaway, and we lost the margin by 4. Like that is just ridiculous. And coach said it, if you're not generating turnovers and if you're giving turnovers, you can't win games. And yeah, sure as shit didn't.
yeah, I mean, he certainly was right about something. Which is funny because in every other statistical aspect of the game, we were nearly equal, if not putting up a better game than the Showboats.
Yeah, in
Like,
between the 20s, we had some momentum. We had the ability to move. And if not even that, like it's not like they were torching us either. It
yeah,
just was that they got a couple scores when they turned into touchdowns, what we were unable to do on our end. And then, of course, like I said, at the end of the game, just all of a sudden, here, let's just hand the ball over to them, just give it to them at the worst time, and that's when it really got out of hand. But
yeah, especially when it's felt like every turnover. It also didn't help that it felt like every turnover was like a 12 to 14 point swing. Where like obviously, the one fumble that got taken back for a touchdown, that's an obvious one. But like it felt like every single turnover was just like you remove the turnover. You remove the turnovers, the game's fine. The game's competitive. We could have
oh,
actually
absolutely,
won it.
yeah, I think the only turnover they didn't score points on was that Carson Strong interception because it was with 3 seconds left to go in the first half. So obviously that resulted in a touchback, and they didn't do anything. They didn't, score on 80 yards. So that didn't hurt us. I wasn't too upset about that turnover, but it was the other three that were just like, what the hell? We were driving, and Love threw it right to the dude. Like, he barely had to do anything but put his hands up and maybe move over like 3 feet right there. Do not know how he didn't see him. And that just killed whatever momentum we had. And I think they went down and scored on us. And then, of course, that fumble, the strip sack there, returning for a touchdown. That obviously was points, defensive score. And then I think they scored off of that Walker fumble on the return, and that ultimately put the game out of reach. And for that one, I think I was tweeting some frustration at that point and missed that fumble. But I did hear the crowd.
Well, you heard the
Oh
lack of noise from the crowd.
no, I heard the disgusted boo.
Uh,
It was no, it was very audibly disgust. The
yeah,
crowd did not enjoy that, and certainly our section was not thrilled by that. It's just like, I don't know. I've lost a lot of faith right now this week. I pretty much avoided wearing a lot of the Panthers gear because I've been just rocking Panthers gear for like the last few months, in preparation for the
oh
season.
yeah,
But then this week I was a little too disgusted and wore very little of it this week, which kind of makes you realize just how much emotionally involved I'm getting in this, is because this is the same it's the same tactic I have when it comes to U of M in the fall. Like, after a loss, it's just like, nope, I do not wear this. I do not want to be seen in this stuff because I'm just hurting that badly. So,
yeah.
I'm
But
hurt. I was hurt.
at least through all that, I did come to a deep philosophical enlightenment that I then proceeded to post on Twitter. So if any advantage came from this, I guess that. Eh, But yeah, besides that though, like I guess we're now gonna go into specifics, right? Of how to improve.
Uh, be better. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't,
I was gonna suggest activate Barry A, but the activation list already came out. That didn't happen.
yeah, I was gonna say, like, that kind of spoiled it. We didn't get to have any hope in that. So no, we're gonna. I mean, I'm not against. I don't want us to move away from Love and Strong. I just want them to be able. I just want the offense to be able to do something. And until the O line can
Yeah,
figure something out, I don't think Love and Strong have the skill set to be able to extend the play with their feet at all. And that's what I want to see EB for. Not because I'm just like, I'm done with Love and Strong. Like, I am done with our O line. I'm
yeah.
done with some of the play calling. So I wanted EB, but yeah, like you said, that already came out, and we don't get that this week unless one of our guys gets injured. And I'm not hating them that much
No,
to
no,
the
no, no,
point
no, no,
where
no.
I want them injured. So
Yeah,
so
like
ideally, all of our quarterbacks stay healthy, and we won't see Barrier this weekend, which is, again, still something I'm a little annoyed by, but I mean, is what it is.
which
But
another note about quarterbacks. If you're gonna switch to Strong in the middle of the game, maybe stick with him longer than like a drive and a half. Because
yeah,
whenever Strong is on the field, and he has problems, because apparently he doesn't know the height of anybody on the football field. Because he's throwing it high, low, everywhere. But at least the offense moves. Like, the offense, I noticed, the few times we put Carson Strong in, like especially these last 2 weeks, those are the only times that the offense is consistently moving the ball. Is when Carson's in. Because with Josh Love, yes, like maybe once out of every 4 tries you get a good drive. but the other 3 are negative 5-yard 3 and outs.
Yeah,
So
hard to get
gonna
something
switch
going.
out quarterbacks. If you're gonna swap out QBs, commit to it. Commit to it and give, especially if you switch to Strong, give him time to get in rhythm with his receivers. Because a large part of it could be he hasn't had enough time.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't know if he would have performed any worse than Love did on that first drive after halftime. We had the ball. We had what, 3 straight runs. Scott was running really well. Then all of a sudden, we went 3 straight passes, 3 straight batted balls. I it just and I yelled at the TV because I wasn't back in my seat at the point when second half started, and I just was like, why? Why are we doing this to are we not running with Strong? Because he had a pretty decent drive to end the first half. I mean, granted, that interception wasn't great, but it was more of a jump ball. It wasn't like he, threw it into, a situation where the receiver couldn't get it. It just, no, I would have liked to see Strong in for longer.
Yeah, or it wasn't whatever the hell Josh Love did on his interception.
Yeah. It boggles my mind that they're just sticking with Love that much. Like, again, like you said, if you're gonna move to Strong, give him a little more time. Not that he was lighting everything up, but still, he went 9 for 12, and one of the incompletions was that interception. So only 2 other of his balls, didn't get caught. So it's not like he had a bad outing. So yeah, I don't. So the logic, I don't get the logic. It does baffle me as well, and I wonder if maybe that's something that we'll see change. But on the flip side, our defense needs to start getting stats again.
Yeah,
It feels way too much like last year, where the defense wasn't the reason that we lost so much as they didn't help us win, and it just feels so much like that. I mean, that's why I tweeted, like, why am I getting 22 flashbacks? And I'm not the only one to feel that, apparently.
yeah. Just they're not helping anymore. It seems like the secondary just enough not to have every single ball be a deep ball for a touchdown. It seems, and the line just seems to be dead.
Yeah.
Speaks
I mean,
Speaks doesn't exist anymore. Marino is. Uh,
well, his untimely penalty at the end didn't, was just kind of like
yeah,
was again one of that final nail, just like, of course, yeah, let's just start being undisciplined. And it just, the team needs to get reset. Hopefully they did this week in practice, and leave last week behind them, the last 2 weeks.
yeah,
And honestly, I'm good with doing that myself as well. I'm ready to put the last 2 weeks behind us.
yeah,
So let's look forward a little bit.
yeah.
So power rankings, they've kind of shifted just a lot a bit over the last couple of weeks. You and I
Mm-hmm.
agree on the top 3 teams. We don't entirely agree on the order, but I'm gonna go ahead and change things up a little bit. I'm gonna go through my list, you go through yours, and then we can kind of discuss from there. That sounds good to you.
Yeah.
All right. So Stars, I don't know what the hell happened to them, but they are god awful. And so they are very clearly the worst team now, replacing the Showboats at number 8. Showboats gotta win, but think that's just as much of us to blame than their credit. So Showboats are still 7. Until we play better, I have us at 6. Gamblers, they've won 2 straight. They deserve a little bit of credit. They're my number 5. Maulers, I mean, yeah, your 3 losses are to the 3 best teams, and it's all by a single score. I have no choice but to put them at number 4, as much as that pains me. I still feel they are like our biggest rival, so I hate it. I hate giving them credit, but credit where credit's due. Stallions, I'm putting them at number 3. They probably could go to number 2, but you know, they squeaked by the Maulers. Granted, a good Maulers team, but didn't show a whole lot to give me any faith, any reason to put them above the Generals. Then the Generals, number 2, really close game to the Breakers, who of course retained the number 1 spot at being the only 4-0 undefeated team in the league. So until they get knocked off, and as much as it pains me to say it, they're the team to beat. They're my number 1.
Yeah, unfortunately, Breakers fans are really annoying, though.
Very.
Yeah, for me, my bottom 2 are the 2 Pennsylvania sides. Number 8, the Stars, same reason. Look at that. When their offense disappears, the defense gets exposed for the absolute. I don't even. There aren't words to describe how bad the Stars are on defense. Um, like there's no words in any language actually. I've done it. I've searched through every language. The Stars are horrific on defense, and the offense at this point is just not helping. For me, 7 is the Maulers. It's not that I dislike them or I think they're bad. I think that this pack of 4 teams are all at about equal footing with each other. Um, but the Maulers just kind of like a hair below everyone else. For me, the Showboats are 6. Cole Kelly is definitely the quarterback to go with for the Showboats for the remainder of the season. And if their defense keeps up, they could be an okay little unit in the South. I still don't predict they're going to finish anywhere off the bottom, but all things considered, not bad. Number 5 for me, of course, are our ever fun, ever entertaining Michigan Panthers. Yeah, I like to pretend those first 2 weeks were the only games we played, but we didn't. So, 2 really good games plus 2 really bad games were perfectly mediocre. Ain't that how it works? Number 4 for me is the Gamblers. The Gamblers came alive this week. I understand the Stars are horrific and their other win was against the Showboats, but they held their own against the Breakers.
They did.
And they kept it close with us for the longest time. So the Gamblers, as I suspected, they weren't a bad team. They were just a team that made mistakes. And now coming in for these next few weeks, I'm excited to see the Gamblers in action. 3 for me is the Stallions. Of the top 3 for me, of like these last 2 weeks, they've been clearly the weakest. They've just kind of been like, obviously their win over the Maulers was a gritty win, but I would have expected a little bit more from the Stallions than a 4-point win over the Maulers that kind of required some stuff to happen in their way in terms of like some luck. But, and of course, obviously the loss to the Breakers where their defense got throttled. Yeah, I just don't have much. I don't think too highly of the Stallions right now. Number 2 for me, Generals. Just another solid week from them. Obviously, dropped it at the end, but not too much to complain about, really. You lost the Breakers, and you only lost by 3. So that's commendable. Nothing to really be ashamed of at that point. Should that be the championship game? I think there's a very solid chance that's the championship. I think they can have a good shot for the title. And number 1, unfortunately, for me, is going to be the Breakers. They just keep finding ways to win games, and I hate it. Like, they're not even, like, clobbering team. They're just edging them out by enough. And realistically, hey, so long as you have more points at the end of the football game, you win no matter what. And they just keep on winning. So really, yeah, you kind of have to put them at 1.
Yeah, I guess they could win by 1 point every single game, but if they're the only ones at the end of the year that are undefeated and win all their games, including the championship game, kinda can't call that, fraudulent. So, yeah, unfortunately, they gotta get credit. But overall, I think we are in large part in agreement, except for I don't get why you were the Maulers at 7 for you. Like, over the last couple weeks, with them winning, granted their loss versus the Generals wasn't great, but neither was our loss, and they haven't lost to the Showboats yet.
Yeah.
I I I I don't agree with, but that's your power rankings, not mine. I have them at
Yeah.
4. I have them above us. Not I don't know if they are better, but they're certainly playing better right now. And this week is definitely one where we're going to have to show up, and they are too, and we'll get to see where things shake out. But no, I give them more credit than you do at this point. But I mean,
Yeah.
shouldn't matter after this week. Hopefully we can put them away.
Hopefully. We're undefeated all the time. I'd like to keep it that way.
Amen. All right. So there actually were some roster moves this week. Some surprises. Kind of some good signings. Not ones that I expected. But off the top, we had one release today, which I was kind of wondering what the hell is going on, because when we kept signing guys, I'm thinking, well, we are one over the roster limit, so there was going to be someone else put on IR, and I wondered if that was going to be maybe Keontae Harden because he was injured. Didn't be the case. It did, in fact, end up being a cut, and we lost our lone Wolverine on the team in safety Delano Hill. Delano didn't really play outside of special teams this year, which was surprising because I think you and I both pegged him as a starter in week 1. So for the fact that he was only active for the last couple of weeks, and even then just on special teams, was a bit surprising. So not
Yeah.
my favorite cut. Not I was hoping we would be able to keep our Wolverine and get to see him be a star on the team, but did not work out the way that we expected.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I get it. It's a cutthroat industry, you know. Yeah, it just sucks to see him go. Not really too much to bring in on that, but we did bring in a new safety to replace him.
We did another 2017 draft pick, or draft class, now draft pick, because he also went undrafted, and that is safety Kai Nakua out of
Mm.
BYU. John has moved around a few different teams in the NFL, but has been on what, 4 active rosters, being the Browns, Colts, Niners, and Jets over the last 6 years. So not a whole lot of NFL experience, like 19 tackles, but still NFL experience
Yeah, I
out
was
of
gonna say
53.
19 NFL tackle. That's a decent number for someone who's ended up down here.
Yeah, certainly more than I think what you're going to find the average to be across the USFL. So yeah, that's fair. So another NFL experienced dude, which so having his signing makes more sense now with us cutting Delano. So kind of excited to see how he does. He's already on the active roster, so that's crazy. His signing announced 2 days ago. Then they announced that he's on the active roster for this week. So be seeing if what type of impact he gets to make. Then we also picked up another wide receiver, which makes sense with Devin Ross being on IR, we did need to pick up an extra guy, and we did that with Caden Davis out of Northwestern Missouri State. He was undrafted this past year in 2022, though he did spend some time on the Broncos practice squad last year. So little bit of experience, not too much. Seemed to do pretty well on the smaller schools stage there. So we'll see how quickly he gets up to speed. He is not active for this week, so we won't be seeing him, at least not yet. And then finally we got our second 2023 draft pick signed in defensive end Levi Bell out of Texas State. He was our 6th round draft pick. So crazy to see that going. Already, the fact that we've already signed 2 guys out of our draft class makes sense to me. Again, coming in middle season, kind of more of what we were expecting. Like we weren't anticipating. We didn't see these guys signing in before the season started, but now they're starting to come in mid-season. Again, what I expected, but I'm a little surprised that we only have seen 2 now at this point. But at the same time, makes sense. And he also is already on the active roster for this week, and his signing was just announced last night. So, hopefully that means that he's impressed and that we aren't that depleted at D line, because I really don't want to have to rely on him unless he just came in and is impressed. And if then I'm excited.
If he's guns blazing, then I'll take that. And it's good to see that the USFL is actually signing a good number of these draft picks after the NFL draft. A lot of guys are coming in there deciding to take USFL offers. When they know they're wanted here. I know a certain quarterback felt a degree of disrespect to be taken down here in the USFL. Then he went undrafted, but he found it. He found a contract. I'll give him that. But is what it is.
I mean, I don't blame them. They're going to go for the NFL first, which they absolutely should. At the current state, obviously, USFL and XFL cannot offer anywhere near even what the practice squads can offer these players. So, by all means, let them go get the bag. Unfortunately, not every guy is going to be able to find a home on an NFL roster. So, glad that we get to give them that opportunity, and awesome to see that we are going to get some of the guys that we were kind of excited to see when their names were called back in February. So super excited to see those guys joining in. Hopefully they get some playing time this week, because Bell is not the only rookie our draft out of our draft class to actually make our active roster this week. So that is it's gonna be exciting. We'll see what impact they make against of course, the Pittsburgh Maulers. So, in contrast to last week on Saturday being a 7:30 kickoff, we go in the opposite direction and kick off at 12:30 on Saturday on USA. So this is the second of 3 games that are not on OTA. So this is our second cable game of the year. And really interesting that the Maulers seem to be all playing these games around this kickoff time. Really interesting to see how that's played out. So that's what's shaking out for us. I expect better attendance this week than last week. From what I was told, we already had more tickets distributed than what was last week, so again, better attendance, which will be nice to see. It is Kids Day, so there will be a lot more events for, obviously, for kids. Face painting, more on-field activities, kicking field goals, and stuff like that. So that'll be great. Drawstring bags are the giveaway. Honestly, I'm not ashamed. If I get there in time, I do want to grab one myself. Pretty good,
Yeah.
pretty decent quality.
Yeah,
We were
they
able to get one.
yeah, is it the same ones they were showing in, like, the, promo footage, like, before, the week 3 game?
I
Like,
think
when they
so.
went
It's
to the
also the
schools?
ones where they're, when the giveaways on the field, when they're, doing the giveaways and the trivia and all that to the people that they have that they bring onto the field. The drawstring bags that they were including in their giveaways, pretty nice. We were able to get one when we had that youth camp thing back in March in Ipsy or in Ann Arbor, before towards the beginning of training camp. So pretty decent quality. I like it. I mean, it's also free. I'm not going to complain if I grab one. So I'm going to try for that. But obviously, I'm not a kid anymore, so I don't get to do any of the other fun stuff. But such as,
Yeah.
hey, but I'll feel like a kid if the way get us a win. So, that's my main concern.
You rush to the yeah, it's like you rush to the side and you're like, "Hey, kids only." It's like, "But we just won, I feel like a kid again." It's like, "No, that's not how this works."
Didn't kick and scream, start throwing a temper tantrum.
Yeah, and then they're like, "Oh, okay, yep, definitely let him on."
All right, yep, you are just a big kid.
It's like, it's like Big, you know? Except replace the Giants with the Panthers.
Oh, yeah. So, like you said earlier, we are 3-0 all-time series with the Maulers. So, played them once in the 80s and then, of course, 2 times last year. Hopefully, we get to keep that streak and also have a rebound this week. Very much, very, very sorely needed rebound.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the Maulers are looking to keep their pretty good momentum from these, first 4 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, all things considered, they're not playing absolutely lights out. Obviously, they're 1-3, but again, as we've said a couple times now, they played the best teams in the league so far. Like their schedule to this time, to this point, has been probably the toughest of anybody's. So, got to give them credit where credit's due. It's going to be a tough matchup,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
one,
especially going up against that defense that's been, laying down offenses week in and week out.
yep, and that will be a tough matchup with a couple guys out again. We will not see Marcus Sims still. He is doubtful, and it doesn't look like he was moved back to active roster. We are actually going to lose out on our linebacker Noah Dawkins, who is an absolute baller. He unfortunately is not going to be able to play, so that is disappointing. But in return, we are actually going to see our third round draft pick, Santrell Latham. He's been activated for this week, so looks like he's going to be taking the place of Dawkins this week. And then we are
Yeah.
still going to be without Keontae Harden. Fortunately, he's not on IR, but he is still going to be on the practice squad and inactive for this week. We do get Cole Hicatini back. He was out last week with an injury. He is full go this week, so he's back on the active roster. So glad to have him. But that also means that we lose WAP and Kyle Markway. They have been moved back down to the inactive roster, so won't see those guys.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, probably the biggest thing, at least in terms of the activations, very happy to see Hikatini back.
Very
You
happy.
know, when he's on the field, he has been probably one of the better receiving targets for our quarterbacks this year.
Oh, absolutely. He
Yeah, he's been doing everything.
he's been one of our 4 best targets, or 4 best players on the offense. Obviously, you have Corbin and Scott, and then Walker and Hickety. So, yeah, one of the 4 top.
Yeah,
And
so good to see him back.
yeah, and to my knowledge, Hicketini has not lost a fumble yet. So, as much as I love Walker, Hicketini's got that edge as probably one of my, probably my favorite player on offense right now. I mean, because at least surprised a little bit because we knew what we were going to get from Scott and Corbin. Obviously, love Reggie, love Stevie. Those 2 are probably still going to be my favorite on offense, but definitely happy to have one of our biggest weapons so far this year back. Not sure that losing him last week was a huge factor in our loss, but we can use all of the help that we can get this week with potentially, the best defense in the league as our opponent this week. So super thrilled to have him back.
Yeah. But now let's look at this game ahead of us.
All right, I'll let you take it away. What are you
Yeah.
thinking?
Well, unfortunately for the Panthers, we're playing a team with a good defense. And if there's anything we've learned from these past few weeks, we don't fare well against teams that have good defenses. Now, of course, the Maulers play a different brand of defense from the Generals and, well, the Showboats, but that's still a good defense. And they're going to try and force turnover. So, really, one of the big keys this week, as it's been, well, especially after last week's train wreck, I don't care if you have to sit on the ball. Just try your best not to turn it over. Don't make dumb throws. Don't try to force things into where they're not supposed to be. Like, if Joe Walker's not open, you don't have to throw it to Joe Walker. You can run it. You can throw it to one of the other receivers we have. Because it felt like, especially, um, it felt like, especially with Josh Love, that he wasn't acknowledging anyone else was existing these past few weeks. Like it. I don't even remember Ish Hyman's name getting called last week.
Yeah,
Or
he got some targets. I do believe he had a couple catches. But yeah, to your point, it's not like we've been spreading the love a whole lot.
yeah. Meanwhile, on defense, the biggest thing: learn to make it to third down, and preferably make it third and medium to long, because the Maulers are atrocious on third down percentage, 32%, worse in the league to this point of the year. And if you can survive to make it to a 3rd and 5 plus, I think the defense is going to be fine. The issue was Memphis was constantly getting it into 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2s, if they even needed a third down. They were just having their way on 1st and 2nd down. They got the 10 yards deep, bada bing, bada boom, move the chains.
Yeah, that's been an issue on the defense the last couple of weeks. I've noticed like New Jersey and Memphis didn't have to have these 3rd and longs. And yeah, exactly. That was kind of one of my thoughts for the last couple of weeks is that get them into at least 3rd and mid and 3rd and long and not these 3rd and short because at this point it was just a gimme and that helped them to control the clock a little bit more, let them continue to get first downs and just salt the game away. Because again, in both of the last 2 games, it's not like the Panthers were out of the game until pretty much the back half of the 4th quarter. So, being able to get a couple stops on 3rd down on defense would have been fantastic. But no, let them, they keep giving up too many yards on 1st and 2nd down, putting the offense on, 3rd and short and putting our defense in a tough position, putting themselves in a tough position to stop them. And they just hadn't been able to do it in the last couple of weeks. And yeah, they're gonna have to this week. And like you said, with the Maulers being the worst third down percentage team so far this year, that they have to capitalize on that this week. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They have to capitalize on third down, get off the field, and give our offense another chance. And then on the flip side, our offense actually going to have to stay on the field too.
Oh yeah,
Quick
because
passes. If we need quick passes, we need to get the ball out of Love and Strong's hands. Great, let's do that. Ideally, not behind the line, so Reggie gets swarmed and tackled for loss. Like, but do something. We need to get speed and space. Let's do something like that. Like, let's just generate yards. Like, I'm not even. I mean, obviously, I care about points, but ideally,
yeah,
let's just focus and get into even field goal range with the way that Cole has been playing the last couple of weeks. Granted, he only had to attempt one field goal last week and one PAT, but still nailed both of those. Was perfect versus New Jersey. So he seems to be back in form. We're playing in a dome. So at least try something to get to field goal range. Give us a chance to even get scores. Because as much as I hate settling for 3, we've scored 13 and 10 points the last 2 weeks. I'm good with 4 field goals. That puts us at 12 points, and that puts us at almost what we scored against New Jersey. So, yeah, I don't
yeah,
know. We need to generate something, and if we have to rely on special teams, then I guess we can be that team that relies on special teams. And if it gets us the win, if it gets us to turn around, I guess I'm okay with that. But ideally, touchdowns. But that would also require having our quarterbacks have some time to throw the ball and not have the ball knocked down at the line of scrimmage.
yeah. I would like to see. I would like to not see any plays where it's just throw and then oh, where did the football go? Oh, it's directly up in the air.
We've
That's
been
not
very
supposed to
fortunate
be
this year
there. Yeah,
where we haven't had too many of those, and the couple, 2, 3 handful that we've had, have been able to be knocked down or landed nowhere, near a defender. But our luck's going to be running out. It obviously already did with that fumble, which was clear as a day a fumble. Like they got his hand before it was coming forward, and then just a scoop and score. And oh, it's been frustrating, and I'm really, really, really hoping that we see some sort
yeah,
of change there. Um, like we've said a couple times already tonight. Ideally, let's stick with a quarterback. If we go to switch to Strong, let's not yank him after a series. At least do something different than what we've been doing. Like the game management has been subpar the last couple weeks, and I'm looking for a change. Looking for them to make a change in that. And at the very least, if it's just leave Strong in for a couple series longer than what they have been doing, at least it's something.
yeah,
But playing the best defense in the league, that we're either going to get killed or it's going to be a slugfest. And well, I shouldn't say slug. It's just going to be slow churning. I think there's going to
yeah,
be a few points,
yeah,
and I think that's probably going to be our best chance to win. Is well, granted, we're also playing against another top kicker in with Blewett. So it could be a special teams game back and forth, depending on how we handle Williams. If it's anything like we handled, Kenji in week 1, I'll be confident. If it's how we handled Johnson in week 3, it's going to be a disaster. Hopefully, at the very least, it's somewhere in the middle, ideally closer to Kenji. but
Yeah.
I don't know. I had a lot more confidence going into our discussion last week, looking ahead to the showboats, which we understandably thought was going to be a
Winnable
reasonable,
game.
yeah, a game that, okay, here we can tune up, get right, get set, figure things out, and just go in and win. Playing at home against the worst team in the league. And yeah, no. Didn't turn out that way. So to say I'm not as confident, definitely would be an understatement.
Yeah, and I think that bared out in our predictions.
Yeah. I think last 3 weeks, obviously, first 3 weeks of the game or first 4 weeks, we predicted Panthers winning. We were right the first 2 weeks. Last 2 weeks, definitely were not on point. And honestly, hopefully, I think you and I agree that we wish that we are wrong this week. But you and I both have chose to predict that the enemy is going to win this weekend.
Yeah, but both of us say the Maulers are gonna get the win here. It'll be close though, and it's gonna be low scoring.
Yep.
Neither are gonna score more than 20 points. This will be one of those games that everyone's gonna be like in the Discord, like, "Oh, this is why are we watching this? This is so bad."
Well, except for those of us in Big Ten country, we're gonna just love it
Yeah,
because this is going to be just drawn out. It's going to be just probably a bunch of punting, um, ideally, and field goals. I don't have enough confidence in our offense right now and our offensive line. So again, if we can win it with field goals, I'm good with that. But yeah, I think we lose a close one, like you said. Both teams scoring under 20. I have it Maulers 17-14.
yeah. And I have the Maulers 14-10. But we hope we're wrong.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We don't we
I'm
don't
going to
want to be
root.
right. We don't want to be
No,
right.
no. One of the few times I absolutely hope that I'm wrong. You won't get to hear me say that often, but this is certainly one of those times.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, dude, I'm so ready for us to right the ship. Again, I don't know that this weekend is it. The Maulers seem primed to take full advantage of a dis
Dysfunctional.
a very dysfunctional Panthers team right now, where it doesn't look like the coaching staff has us on the right path. Not if the last 2 weeks are any indication. I trust in the staff, what they've managed to do with this team from where it was last year has been still impressive. I'm still holding on to that. I still love our roster, but something's got to give. Hopefully, it's not the curse of Ford Field and we go 0-5 at home this year and 5-0 away. But
Yeah.
so far, it's kind of looking like it's going that way again. Hopefully, we break that this weekend. I'm going, obviously, we're going to be there. I'm going to be as loud probably as I have been, but um, definitely planning to drink, that's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, hey, what's the line? 5 o'clock somewhere? Something like that.
Yeah, always 5 o'clock somewhere. Oh, with that, I don't really have a whole lot else to add. At this point, I'm just kind of repeating myself in my frustrations over the last couple of weeks, and can only take so much bitching before we piss everybody off. So,
Yeah, if you're listening, hope the Panthers win for the entertainment value of this podcast.
for our spirits, because otherwise next week's just going to be monotone talking, and well, we got more of the same. Hopefully, we don't get to do that. Hopefully, we get to be a little bit more animated in a good way and not a pissed off way. So, we will see. Okay, so I said we'll leave it at that. I did not do a giveaway for this week's tickets. Kind of lost track of that, but I will be putting up giveaway tickets for next week's game versus the Stallions, which is looking like it's going to be a really good attendance game too. So that might be a giveaway to keep your eyes on. And you can do that by following us on Twitter and Instagram and YouTube at USFL Shadow. And then you can, of course, follow me. I'm going to be tweeting and retweeting stuff on my personal account at Cheese Soda. And then Jack, you can find on Twitter at Panthers Claw MI.